Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like you're being called to something greater? Like there's a whisper in the background of your life? A subtle but persistent feeling that you're meant to understand something profound? Something that most people miss entirely? What if I told you that this whisper, this sense of being drawn toward a deeper truth, isn't random? What if I told you that only a rare 1% of people ever truly hear it, let alone understand it? And what if I told you that you might be one of them? In this journey, we're going to explore what it really means to understand God's message, how this understanding changes everything about your life, and why only the rarest individuals, the so-called chosen ones, are able to receive and act on this extraordinary gift. But before we dive into the depths, let's start with a simple yet profound question. What does it mean to truly hear God's message? Most of us think of messages from God as grand, unmistakable signs, flashes of light, booming voices, or divine miracles. But the truth is, God's messages are rarely loud. They're quiet, subtle, and deeply personal. They come in the form of intuition, synchronicity, or a sudden insight that seems to come from nowhere. They're woven into the fabric of everyday life, hidden in the patterns, the challenges, the people you encounter. The problem is, most people are too busy, too distracted, or too disconnected to notice them. They're caught in the noise of the world, looking outward for answers, when the real message is being whispered within.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
But you, if you're still listening, still engaged, are different. You've felt it, haven't you? That inexplicable pull toward something greater. That sense that there's more to life than what meets the eye. That's not your imagination. That's the first step, the first invitation. And here's the kicker. God's message isn't something you find, it's something you recognized. It has always been there, waiting for you to notice it. The question is, are you ready to listen? Understanding God's message starts with a willingness to see beyond the surface. It requires you to step out of the ordinary and into the extraordinary. But here's the challenge. The path to this understanding is not easy. In fact, it's one of the hardest journeys you'll ever take. Why? Because God's message isn't meant for the masses. It's meant for the few who are willing to strip away their illusions, face their deepest fears, and align their lives with a higher truth. It's not a message of comfort. It's a message of transformation. And transformation always comes with resistance. You might be wondering, why only 1%? Why would God's message be so exclusive? The answer lies in the nature of spiritual growth. It's not that God is withholding anything. The message is there for anyone who's willing to receive it. But most people aren't willing. They're too attached to their egos, their fears, their material desires. They're looking for answers that validate their current way of being, not answers that challenge them to change. And change is exactly what understanding God's message demands. Here's where it gets even deeper. Understanding God's message isn't about intellectual knowledge. It's not something you can learn from a book or a sermon. It's experiential. It's a knowing that arises from the core of your being, from a direct connection to the divine. And this knowing often comes through hardship. Think about it. When do you feel closest to God? Is it during the easy, comfortable moments of life? Or is it during the trials? The heartbreaks, the moments when everything you thought you knew is stripped away. God's message is often hidden in these moments, not because God wants you to suffer, but because suffering strips away the layers of illusion that separate you from the truth. But let me ask you this. What if every challenge you faced in your life was actually a part of God's message to you? What if the pain, the loss, the confusion, all of it was designed to wake you up, to guide you back to your true self? This is one of the hardest truths to accept, but it's also one of the most liberating. When you start to see your life this way, everything changes. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, what is this trying to teach me? You stop resisting your challenges and start embracing them as opportunities for growth. And in that shift, you begin to hear God's message more clearly. But hearing the message is only the beginning. The real gift comes when you understand it, when you take it into your heart and let it transform you. And this is where so many people falter. They hear the whispers, they feel the pull, but they're afraid of what it might require of them. Because understanding God's message means letting go of everything that's not aligned with it. It means surrendering your ego, your control, your attachment to the things that no longer serve your highest good. It's a death and a rebirth, a shedding of the old self so that the true self can emerge. Then here's the beautiful paradox. The more you let go, the more you receive. The more you surrender, the more you're filled with a sense of clarity, purpose, and peace. This is the huge spiritual gift of understanding God's message. It's not just an intellectual realization, it's a complete realignment of your being. It's the awakening to a higher reality, a deeper truth, and a more profound connection to the divine. But this gift comes with responsibility. Once you understand God's message, you can't unknow it. You're called to live it, to embody it, to share it with others. And this is where the path of the chosen ones diverges from the path of the many. Most people shy away from this responsibility. They'd rather stay comfortable than step into the unknown. But the chosen ones, the 1%, embrace it. They understand that this gift isn't just for them, it's for the world. They see their lives as vessels for God's work, as instruments of love, healing, and transformation, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to fulfill that purpose. So let me ask you again, are you ready? Are you willing to let go of everything you think you know in order to embrace the truth? Are you willing to face the discomfort, the uncertainty, the resistance that comes with understanding God's message? Because if you are, you're already part of the 1%. You're already on the path. And the gift that awaits you is beyond anything you can imagine. Let's take this further. You're still here, which means some part of you knows there's more to this life than meets the eye. You feel it, don't you? That quiet but unshakable knowing that you're not here by accident, that your life has a purpose far greater than the day-to-day routines most people settle for. But let's be real. This path isn't easy. If it were, everyone would walk it. The truth is, understanding God's message isn't just a gift, it's a profound responsibility. And that's exactly why so few people accept it. You see, the moment you begin to hear God's message, something shifts inside you. It's like a veil is lifted, and suddenly you can't see the world the same way anymore. You start to notice things others don't. You see the patterns, the synchronicities, the lessons hidden in every interaction, every challenge, every moment of stillness. You begin to realize that life isn't random, it's intentional. Every experience, no matter how painful or confusing, is part of a divine plan meant to guide you back to your true self. But here's the catch. Recognizing this truth means you can no longer live in ignorance. You can no longer live in ignorance. You can no longer blame the world, other people, or even God for your struggles. You have to take full ownership of your life, your choices, and your growth. And that's where the path of the chosen begins. Let's ask ourselves a hard question. Why do so many people avoid this path? The answer is simple yet profound. They're afraid of change, afraid of letting go, afraid of stepping into the unknown. Because let's be honest, understanding God's message doesn't just challenge you, it transforms you. It forces you to confront everything you've been avoiding, your fears, your insecurities, your limiting beliefs, your attachments. They all come to the surface, and in those moments it's tempting to turn back, to retreat into the comfort of the familiar. But the chosen ones, the 1%, choose differently. They face the discomfort, the uncertainty, the resistance, because they know that the only way out is through. Here's the thing, God's message isn't something that comes to you all at once. It unfolds, it reveals itself piece by piece, moment by moment, as you grow and evolve. It's like a sacred puzzle, and every experience you have is a piece of that puzzle. Sometimes the pieces don't seem to fit. Sometimes you don't understand why certain things are happening, but over time, as you continue to walk the path, the picture becomes clearer. You start to see how everything is connected, how every moment of joy and pain has been leading you toward a deeper understanding of yourself, of life, and of God. But here's the question, how do you stay on the path when it feels so hard? How do you keep moving forward when the weight of the world seems to be pulling you back? The answer lies in 3 practices: surrender, trust, and action. let's start with surrender. Most people misunderstand this word. They think surrender means giving up, being passive, or letting life happen to them. But true surrender is the opposite. It's an act of courage, of faith. It's saying, I don't have all the answers, but I trust that the answers will come. It's letting go of the need to control everything and allowing God's plan to unfold as it's meant to. This doesn't mean you stop trying or stop caring. It means you stop resisting. You stop fighting against the flow of life and start aligning with it. And in that alignment, you find peace. Not because everything is perfect, but because you know you're exactly where you're meant to be. Next is trust. Trust is the foundation of everything on this path. Without it, you'll always feel lost, uncertain, disconnected. But trust isn't something that just happens. It's something you cultivate. It's a choice you make every single day, especially when things don't make sense, when life feels chaotic, when challenges arise. When you can't see the bigger picture, trust is what keeps you anchored. It's the inner knowing that no matter what happens, God's message is always guiding you, always working for your highest good. And here's the paradox. The more you trust, the more you begin to see evidence of that guidance. It's like a feedback loop. The more you align with God's message, the more it aligns with you. Finally, there's action. This is where so many people get stuck. They hear God's message, they feel the pull, but they don't act on it. They wait for more confirmation, more clarity, more certainty. But understanding God's message isn't about waiting, it's about moving. It's about taking one step forward, even when you're scared. It's about saying yes to the opportunities, the challenges, the lessons that come your way. Because here's the truth. Clarity doesn't come from standing still. It comes from moving forward. It comes from stepping into the unknown and trusting that the path will reveal itself as you walk it. Let me ask you this. What's one step you can take today to align with God's message? It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be intentional. Maybe it's letting go of a fear that's been holding you back. Maybe it's forgiving someone who hurt you. Maybe it's spending 5 minutes in silence, asking God to guide you. Whatever it is, take that step, because every step you take brings you closer to the gift of understanding, closer to the truth of who you are. And here's the most beautiful part. As you begin to align with God's message, you don't just transform your own life, you become a light for others. Your growth, your courage, your willingness to walk this path inspires those around you. You become a living example of what's possible when you choose to listen, to trust, to act. And that's the ultimate gift. Understanding God's message isn't just about you. It's about the ripple effect you create. It's about the lives you touch, the love you share, the difference you make. So I'll ask you again, are you ready? Are you ready to step into the unknown, to face the discomfort, to embrace the transformation? Because if you are, you're already on the path, and what lies ahead is more extraordinary, more beautiful, more fulfilling than anything you can imagine. Now let's go even deeper. If you've made it this far, it's no accident. You're here because some part of you is ready not just to hear God's message, but to understand it on a soul level. And here's where things get truly profound. God doesn't speak in words, not in the way we're used to. God speaks in silence, in symbols, in the language of the universe itself. And the chosen ones, those rare 1%, are the ones who learn to decode this divine blueprint. But how do you do that? How do you begin to understand a message that isn't spoken but felt? To answer that, we need to explore the subtle ways God communicates with us, and how you can start to attune yourself to those messages. Let's start here. Do you believe that nothing in your life happens by chance? Think about it. The people you meet, the challenges you face, the dreams you have, they all seem random on the surface. But what if they're not? What if every single event, no matter how big or small, is part of a greater design? God's messages are often hidden in these so-called coincidences. A stranger says something that sticks with you for days. A door closes only for another one to open in an unexpected way. You keep seeing the same number, hearing the same song, or feeling the same nudge to take a certain path. These aren't accidents. They're breadcrumbs, signs pointing you toward the next step on your journey. But here's the thing. Most people miss the signs because they're not paying attention. They're too distracted by their thoughts, their routines, their fears. God's messages require stillness, presence, and awareness. They require you to slow down and really look at your life, not just with your eyes, but with your heart. So, here's a challenge for you. What if, starting today, you began to see everything as a message? The good, the bad, the mundane. What if it was all trying to tell you something? How would your perspective shift if you approached life this way? The chosen ones understand this. They live with a sense of heightened awareness, always looking for the deeper meaning behind their experiences. But this isn't about overanalyzing everything or trying to force meaning where there is none. It's about tuning into your intuition, that quiet inner voice that knows more than your rational mind ever could. And this brings us to a crucial point. God's messages aren't just external. These are messages carry great wisdom and form an absurd amount of superficial help. They're internal too. Often, the most profound messages come not from the outside world, but from within you. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you really listened to yourself? Not the surface level chatter of your mind, but the deeper wisdom of your soul. We all have that inner knowing, that gut feeling, that sense of what's right or wrong, even if we can't explain it. That's God speaking to you. But the problem is, most of us have been conditioned to ignore it. We've been taught to prioritize logic over intuition, to seek answers outside of ourselves instead of within. The chosen ones unlearn this conditioning. They learn to trust their inner guidance, even when it doesn't make sense to anyone else. And this is one of the greatest gifts of understanding God's message. It reconnects you to your own divine wisdom. But let's get practical for a moment. How do you actually start decoding God's messages in your life? How do you sharpen your awareness and strengthen your connection to the divine? Here are 3 practices to help you get started. First, cultivate stillness. In a world that's constantly busy, stillness is a revolutionary act. It's in the stillness that you can hear what's been drowned out by the noise. This doesn't mean you have to meditate for hours every day, though that can help. It can be as simple as sitting quietly for 5 minutes, breathing deeply, and asking, "What is God trying to tell me right now?" The answer might not come immediately, but over time you'll start to notice a shift. Patterns will emerge, insights will arise, and you'll realize that the silence is not empty, it's full of wisdom. Second, practice gratitude. Gratitude is one of the most powerful ways to align yourself with God's message. Why? Because it shifts your focus from what's missing to what's already present. It opens your heart and raises your vibration, making it easier to receive guidance. Start by noticing the small blessings in your life, the warmth of the sun, the kindness of a friend, the beauty of a flower. These are all reminders of God's presence. And as you cultivate gratitude, you'll find that more and more blessings begin to flow into your life. It's as if the universe is saying, "Now that you're paying attention, here's more to be thankful for." Third, take inspired action. Understanding God's message isn't just about listening, it's about responding. When you feel a nudge to do something, follow it. When you sense that a certain path is calling you, take a step in that direction. Even if you're not sure where it will lead, trust that you're being guided. Remember, clarity comes through movement, not stagnation. The chosen ones are not passive recipients of God's messages. They're active participants in the unfolding of their destiny. But let me warn you, this path requires courage, because the more you align with God's message, the more you'll be called to step out of your comfort zone. You'll be asked to let go of old beliefs, habits, and relationships that no longer serve you. You'll be asked to embrace the unknown, to trust in what you cannot see, and this is where many people falter. They hear the message, but they're afraid to act on it. They cling to what's familiar, even if it's holding them back. So here's a question. What are you holding on to that's keeping you from fully understanding and living God's message? Is it a fear of failure, a need for approval, a belief that you're not worthy? Whatever it is, know this: you don't have to let it go all at once. You just have to be willing to start. Even the smallest step toward alignment can create a ripple effect that transforms your entire life. And as you take those steps, something incredible happens. You begin to see the world differently. Challenges become opportunities, setbacks become lessons. Every moment, no matter how ordinary, becomes infused with meaning. This is the huge spiritual gift of understanding God's message. It's not about escaping the struggles of life. It's about seeing those struggles as part of a greater plan. It's about living with a sense of purpose, connection, and faith that transcends anything the world can throw at you. Let me ask you one more thing before we continue. What would your life look like if you fully embraced God's message? How would it feel to live in complete alignment with your soul's purpose? Sit with that for a moment, because the answer to that question might just be the key to unlocking everything you've been searching for. Now we've arrived at the heart of it all, the culmination of everything we've explored so far. Understanding God's message isn't just about hearing it or even about decoding it. It's about becoming it. It's about embodying the truth you've been shown and living as a vessel of divine purpose. This is the ultimate gift and the ultimate challenge, because once you truly understand God's message, your life is no longer just about you. It becomes about something much bigger, something eternal. And this is where the rare few, the chosen 1%, step into their full power and responsibility. Let me ask you a question. What if your life isn't about achieving, acquiring, or even surviving? What if it's about serving? Not in the narrow sense of sacrificing yourself for others, but in the highest sense of allowing your life to be an expression of God's love, wisdom, and purpose. What if every gift you've been given, your talents, your experiences, even your struggles, was meant to prepare you for this? What if you are here, right now, in this moment, because the world needs exactly what only you can offer? This is the essence of becoming the message. It's about realizing that God's message isn't something outside of you, it's something within you. It's the divine spark that has been quietly guiding you all along, waiting for you to recognize it. And once you do, everything changes. You stop searching for meaning and start creating it. You stop asking, "What can I get from life?" and start asking, "What can I give?" You stop seeing yourself as separate from God and begin to understand that you are an extension of God's light in the world. But here's the truth. Most people don't want to hear. Living as a vessel of divine purpose isn't easy. It requires radical honesty, unwavering faith, and relentless courage. Because the moment you step into this role, you'll face resistance, both from within yourself and from the world around you. Your ego will try to pull you back into fear, doubt, and self-centered thinking. Others may misunderstand you, judge you, or even reject you. And yet, despite all of this, you must keep going, because the more aligned you become with God's message, the more you'll realize that none of these obstacles can truly touch you. They are temporary, but the divine truth you carry is eternal. So how do you live as the message? How do you embody God's purpose in a world that often feels chaotic, uncertain, and even hostile? It starts with 3 commitments: authenticity, service, and surrender. First, live authentically. This means being true to who you are at the deepest level, not who society says you should be, not who others expect you to be, but who God created you to be. Authenticity is about stripping away the masks, the pretenses, and the roles you've been playing to fit in or feel safe. It's about standing in your truth, even when it's uncomfortable or inconvenient. And here's the beautiful paradox. The more authentic you are, the more magnetic you become, because people are drawn to truth. They're hungry for it. And when you live authentically, you become a beacon, a reminder to others that they too can step into their truth. Second, live in service. This doesn't mean abandoning your own needs or dreams. It means aligning them with a higher purpose. It means asking, how can my life contribute to the greater good? How can I use my gifts to uplift others? Service isn't about self-sacrifice. It's about self-expansion. It's about realizing that when you give from a place of love and abundance, you're not losing anything, you're gaining everything. Because in serving others, you're also serving yourself. You're fulfilling the deepest longing of your soul to live a life of meaning, connection, and love. Finally, live in surrender. This doesn't mean giving up your power. It means aligning your power with God's will. Surrender is about trusting that you don't have to have all the answers, that you don't have to control every outcome. It's about letting go of the need to force things and allowing life to flow through you. This doesn't mean you stop taking action. It means your actions are guided by faith rather than fear, by love rather than ego. And when you live in surrender, you'll find that life becomes less of a struggle and more of a dance, a co-creation with the divine. Let me ask you this. What would your life look like if you fully embraced these three commitments? If you lived authentically, served selflessly, and surrendered completely? Sit with that question for a moment, because the answer isn't just a vision of your future, it's an invitation to step into the fullness of who you are, an invitation to become the message you were born to carry. And here's the most beautiful part. When you live as the message, you don't just transform your own life, you transform the lives of everyone around you. Your presence becomes a catalyst for healing, awakening, and change. You inspire others not through your words, but through your being. You remind them of their own divine potential simply by embodying yours. And this, ultimately, is the greatest gift of understanding God's message. It's not just about what you receive, it's about what you give. It's about becoming a living expression of God's love, wisdom, and purpose in the world. So I'll leave you with this. Are you ready to become the message? Not just to hear it, not just to understand it, but to live it fully and fearlessly. Because if you are, then you're not just one of the chosen ones. You're one of the ones who choose. You choose to align with the divine. You choose to see the sacred in every moment. You choose to let your life be a reflection of God's infinite light. And that, my friend, is the ultimate gift. Not just understanding God's message, but becoming it.